Welcome to Campion Academy Alumni Weekend. I remember my first Alumni Weekend. I was a freshman living in the room right under the dean's apartment. A couple of old ladies came and knocked on our door and said, "Oh, please, can we see our room?" I realize now that was probably their 10-year reunion, but they were old to me. So when I came back, I did not have that dorm. Things change. So maybe you won't find things exactly the way it was when you left, but I hope that while you are here, that you are reminded of all the special things that have made Campion an important part of our lives. Whether you're here a year late, like me, or you're here for your current year, you're someone that never misses a single reunion, or maybe you're watching virtually, we hope that you can participate in the best way that you can in renewing friendships and reliving precious memories. Please stand for prayer. Dear God, we thank you so much for this beautiful day. We thank you for the safe travels, for those of us that have come far, and for those who live nearby. We ask that you laugh with us as we go down memory lane, cry, and comfort us as we remember those we've lost since we've gathered. Bless the participants this morning, and may we appreciate this small taste of our reunion in heaven. Amen.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Darcy Force. I'm the Director of Development and Alumni Relations here at Campion Academy. And I just want to second Sherry's welcome. I'm so glad you all are here this morning. We are going to go down memory lane with some of our alumni this morning. So I'm going to invite them up here on the stage, and we're going to ask them some questions and listen to some stories. So Daryl, Judy, Cleon, and Mary, if you would come up here and join us.
Thank you.
There's one.
There's one over there, okay. All right. Can you get right in here? It'd be great. So Judy, let me hand this one to you.
All right, so we're gonna ask them some questions here, and on our first question, if you guys could introduce yourself and your class year. So we're gonna start out with Daryl and put him on the spot right first off. Daryl, you've got quite a family legacy here at Campion. Can you tell us a little bit, you've gone here, you've got some kids that have gone here. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why so many have chosen to attend Campion?
Well, legacy, can you hear me? Testing, there we go. Legacy can be interpreted in several different ways. I hope it's positive. I think it has been. In my estimate, there are about 20 Bolenders who have attended Campion since in the 1930s. Disclaimer is, some of them are Bolenders only, perhaps not Bolenders in reputation. Some weren't as respectful of the rules as I tried to be, but we were 20 total.
Fantastic. So what year did you graduate, Daryl?
1971.
1971. All right. So honor year. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit how Campion impacted your life and how your kids? I heard Heather wrote a book.
Yeah, I was gifted with 3 children who took a lot after their mother, thank goodness, and turned out well. Campion Academy impacted me in several ways that influenced my career. Ultimately, I sat in front of great teachers such as Mr. Cleon White right beside me, who we're honored he's here today. I hated, thank you, Cleon. I hated mathematics until I got into geometry, and Mr. White made it come alive. I know I was a real pain for him, but he showed me grace. Ultimately, Mr. Melvin Brass also excelled in helping me understand nature, taught me that creation really did occur. And later, when I got into a public university, it was those groundings that influenced my life, ultimately my career into healthcare. So I'm thankful for good teachers, good friends, and when it came time for my kids to come to Campion, I said, you need to come for these reasons, the same reason I chose to come.
Great. Daryl, I wanted to check with you too, because we at Campion Academy have been so blessed with his work with our Alumni Association and Friends of Campion and history of helping us with our school. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for that as well. There was a lot of hard work in there. And then we shared a little time on the golf course together. Remember the golf tournaments you started, helped us get started, you know. What does being a part of the Alumni Association mean to you?
Well, I think it's been neat to see Campion sustained through the alumni support over the years, and the gym roof, I think that was put on about 10 or 12 years ago now, just came through pure miracles, I think partly through alumni saying, they got a terrible roof, somebody needs to do something about it. People showed up that afternoon and said, well, I have a roofing company, can I come help do that? And then Maranatha came together too. So I think there's been a number of things, Don, that the alumni has seen happen that almost are miraculous, and a lot of sweat that went in. So it's been a pleasure to be part of that.
Yeah, well, we sure appreciate that. So I think we're moving to Judy now. So Judy and I go back quite a ways. One of the treasured moments that I remember is just about 3 years ago. We got to do a Discovery Mountain piece together, where I was, of course, principal reader, and she was a World War II airplane pilot, right?
I was a grandma.
You were a grandma, yeah, but you had flown in, yeah.
Yes.
So go ahead and hold the mic up a little bit closer. So how long have you been here at Campion Academy?
Well, I'm not going to tell you the year I was born, but I was born in Loveland.
Okay. It's a great place. I'm a native here as well.
Yes.
And our families were connected at that time, weren't they?
Yes, they were. My mom and your grandma worked together in a medical clinic, and we had a good relationship from early on.
I remember some of the stories of that. So I think a lot of people would know that name. It was the Gross Ball Clinic.
Yes.
Right here in Loveland, and many good memories there. But you did a special thing for my family. You gave up your special horse to give to me, well, I was too young, but to my brothers,
Yes.
to my family. And they still talk about that horse in a positive way.
Yeah, it was, I think she was a Welsh pony, and her name was Gypsy. And my sister and I had used her a lot, and we had graduated to something a little bit bigger, so we gave her to your family.
We got a used horse, and ever since then I've been buying used cars. So she started a tradition for me. So we appreciated that. So what has Campion and your association meant to you and your family?
Well, it's meant from Campion I went on to Union and took nursing and worked in one company for 40 years as a nurse, and I'm retired now. But and I live here, so it's always been part of me. You know, when I was old enough to go to Sabbath school, we didn't have a church. We met in the Sabbath school. Kids met in the basement of the boys' dorm, and one class was in the girls' dorm. So we, you know, it's just been part of me for all of my life, whether I lived here currently, at the time, all the time or not. And my sister Nancy and her husband Jim were in the class of 63, and their son graduated from here, and my two kids, Michelle and Bruce, graduated from here, and two of my grandsons went to HMS, which, by the way, I do not think they should change the name of.
There's a little political ad thrown in there. Thank you.
Yes.
Great. Well, so what would be a favorite memory? Can you narrow it down to one?
I really liked band and band tours. And when we went on the western slope, we'd always stop at Glenwood Springs and go swimming. And I remember one year it was a blizzard while we were swimming. So we'd jump in the pool, and then we'd get out and our hair would freeze and we'd jump right back in because it was just so cold outside. And I have another memory of, in typing class, Miss Ortner, we had typewriters in front of us, and we were supposed to just type what we were looking at and not look up. But I never could get the numbers right, so I looked up, and she was always looking directly at me when I looked up. And to this day, whenever I'm on my computer in the keyboard, I have to look at the numbers. I still don't know where they are.
Who's looking at you when you look up now?
Yeah. Nobody.
Nobody, okay. Well, great. Well, I want you to know, those are great memories, the ones she shared, and we are so pleased that this year we are able to do a music tour that is in the works at this time. So thank you for sharing that.
Okay, so we're going to turn it over to Mr. Cleon White here for a second. I know there was quite a few people who were really excited to hear that he was coming. Now, Mr. White, you were here late 60s through the 70s, right?
Yeah, actually, we arrived here, I think, in June of 1965, and we left here in a flood, 1976, that big Thompson thing. So I never did see it, although I did drive through the canyon yesterday and noticed that they'd done considerable work. So apparently something must have happened.
A few things, I think. So I want to talk to you a little bit. I heard that you've got some stories. I don't know if anybody's getting nervous about sitting in the seat out there about some of his stories, but Daryl looks like a little nervous there.
He ought to be.
So tell us a story, Mr. White.
Well, I'll tell you a story to start off with, right here, right there on that stage. It was the faculty in some year, maybe 70, 71, maybe a little earlier. I can't quite remember. But they were making preparation for a play that was to come on in some type of a talent program or something like that. And I don't know quite why, but I was sort of the out kid in the play, and the rest of the members of the cast were after me for some reason. They were going to really beat up on me and that type of thing. And I had two little children at that time, one sitting right here, and the other one is not here with us today. His name is Eric, and he was about 4 years of age, I think, or something like that. And my wife and the children were sitting out here watching the play as we went through the process. And the little kid came up and says, "Don't you beat up my dad." So we had to really had to work on him a little bit in order to make sure that he realized it was all an act.
That is precious.
But the children that we had here, the children that we had here are I tell you, they've grown a little bit older day by day, but more beautiful. Some of them have gray hair that they pulled out because I was their teacher, I think. But, you know, they have done well in their life. And I've noticed from time to time, I've had students in my class, some would come back a second time, and they would take the same class from me, unfortunately. And they said, you know, I think I better take it twice. I think I had one student actually take it twice in the same day. But you know, that student did really well afterwards. I don't think that I taught that student anything. But they went on to manage a governmental agency well over $2 million and did very, very well. So, you know, it was nothing that I did, but it was everything that she did, and probably a lot of help from God.
Mr. White, we, as faculty and staff, it's a treasure to be here for our own selves as well. What impact did just being a teacher here have for you?
Well, I'm sure it made a turning point in my life. I can well remember going day after day. When we came in 1965, I started school at Greeley, working on my master's degree. And then I had a little, I was sidetracked with, what's the name of this disease, this kissing disease? What do they call that thing?
Mononucleosis.
What is it? Oh, yeah. Whatever it is. And, you know, they said I couldn't take that much that summer. And so I had to slack off. I had to take 4 summers to complete my degree. Well, anyway, I came down to the end of the last summer. It would have been my 4th summer, and I took the comprehensive and failed it. Ouch.
Ouch.
So then I said, Dear, you're going to have to take these kids. You're going to have to take my family. You're going to have to take them out of here, take them back to Mom and Dad. So she took them back to her mom and dad, and my mom and dad, and she was with them for about 6 weeks, bless her heart. While I studied, again, to take that test. And I think once again, those people who were testing me said, you know, we got to get rid of this guy. We don't want to see him around anymore. And so they finally just passed me to get rid of me on the second time through. But I remember going up to the church, very same church we have up here right now, and kneeling down and asking God if he would just get me through this degree. I said, you know, this is not my money. I'm using money of somebody else to do this, and I would really like to get through this thing. And if that happens, you know, I'm not going to sit there every Sunday and root for the Broncos. I mean, this football going 50 yards or 100 yards or whatever it is, it's just some pigskin anyway, and it's not worthwhile. So I'm just going to forget about it, and I'll just work the rest of my life for you, whether it's here or someplace else. And it turned out that I did. I worked here for about 11 years, and they got so tired of me here, they passed me because they said, you know, he can't figure this thing out. We'll just give him to somebody else. And so I went back to Andrews Academy there in Berrien Springs, and unfortunately, they weren't alert enough to get rid of me before I retired. So, you know, that's how that all turned out. But God has been with me. He's blessed me and my family. And so I just am so thankful for a God that I serve.
Well said.
Amen. All right, so I believe Mr. White and his wife are going to be making the rounds this afternoon. So I think he's going to come and visit a bunch of you. So you're forewarned.
I did want to mention one more thing.
Okay, go for it.
Because I got one thing here in the trash bag. Oh, this is just for those people who are under 30 years of age. So I think that's the rest of the academy students, but certainly none of my students that I had when I was here. Does anybody under 30 years of age know what this thing is. You see that? Nobody even knows what it is. All right, how about people over 30 years of age? Look at that. And that's because in my classroom, I had one that was about 8 or 10 feet long hanging from the front, and it had a big weight on one end of it, and we teach them how to use this thing. This is a Kiefer Nessel, and unfortunately, I think it was an Essex or something that hung. And, you know, it was another guy, myself, in Academy that used to fight over which was the best one. But anyway, that's a slide rule that preceded the calculator. And so a girl came in the early 1970s, and she says, "Here, Mr. White, I got something that'll do 4 functions." I says, "Oh, yeah?" I says, well, she says, "Just press these buttons." I did, and it did it. And I says, "I don't want nothing to do with this thing," because she told me that her mother worked at Hewlett-Packard, and it cost her mother, I think it was $400 at discounted rate.
Wow.
And I said, "Oh, no, keep it safe. I don't want to touch it." But, you know, that's when calculators came in, computers, and all the rest. And so it was quite a thing. I just wondered if the rest of these people happen to be here today. If they did, I just wanted to say thank you to them. I don't know if, and I'm sure I haven't taken my time yet. So, but here, if I can just find, oh, here they are. Is Randy Beto here? Or how about Steve Nashlin? Or then there is Keith Hansen. Or Dave Wilbur, or Chris Ortelheide. Where are all these people? Or Les Kelly, Harold Duper. I don't see him. Or McMinn. You know, they're the ones that gave me this Bible.
Yeah, cool. Nice.
And you know, it's a precious thing. It was given to me at the 1975 senior event, whatever they called it at that time, and I've had it these years, worked from. Of course, I've had other Bibles that I worked from as well. But thank you, students of Campion Academy, for getting me started out.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. White. I appreciate you sharing with us this morning. We're going to have some questions for Mary, but Judy and Daryl, be thinking about a specific story. Fun, funny, impactful, your choice, but we're going to come back to you in a minute. So I think Don has some questions for Mary.
All right. Mary and I have a unique history. We both deaned for many years, and we would meet at different conventions and so forth. So, Mary, how many years were you in the deaning service?
20 years.
20 years. Fantastic.
But then, see, I knew your grandma.
Shall I ask this question?
That's the nurse at Gross Balls Clinic.
Oh, okay. That's right. Oh, my.
Yeah.
Well, something that I want to just really let you know is I can't thank you enough for all the work you put into this book of Campion history, and it's a real treasure for many of us. And audience, would you recognize her for putting all the work into that, please? Thank you so much, Mary.
Well, I had a lot of help. Judy's mother, Mrs. Nelson, and then Mrs. Wilson, they had written a lot of history, and so they let me use what they had researched. And then, the name, who was the English teacher back? Who? No. She was a lady. She came and then she left and then she came back. Yeah.
Ann Jeremiah.
Ann Jeremiah. She did all the proofing for me because English was not my thing. So I would write it out and give it to her, and she'd mark it all up, and anyway, so I had a lot of help.
Well, it's a treasure for us. I don't know how many times we've gone back to that book to help answer some questions and to refer to some things that people ask us, and so it's been a treasure for us. But
Well, it was fun. It was a challenge, but it was fun.
one of the questions we wanted you to address today, we are celebrating our connection with the Voice of Prophecy and HMS, and I'm told you have some history to share with us on the HMS school.
Somebody was going to give me a letter he wrote. Oh, it's in the book? Oh, dear. Just hang on a minute.
Got it.
Do you know where it's at? Huh?
Sure. So, Mary, as we're proceeding,
Well, while she's finding it, we were so privileged that Elder Richards several times came to our house and visited us in our living room. What a wonderful man he was. And the information we got from him, the spiritual guidance we got from him was just wonderful. And I was just a little kid, but I still remember him coming to our house.
well, he's a character you would not forget.
Yeah.
So students, just so you know, HMS Richards, that the elementary school is named after.
Is this it?
He graduated from Campion in 1914 before he went into the radio ministry with the Voice of Prophecy. And so that's our connection with HMS.
Do you want me to read the whole thing, or?
Did he write it to Campion? So this is a letter that he wrote to Campion.
Okay.
That Mary's going to read to us here.
My years at Campion meant more to me as a preparation for work in the message we love than later years in college, and this is natural. The years at the academy gave any student direction to the entire afterlife. Their influence colored the dreams of youth. Like Campion, Dobe, they stick it to us, and definitely all the abrasions of time. Then he goes on to tell the students that have and will attend Campion Academy. When you get to Campion Academy, look westward. Long's Peak in its royal towers as king of the front range. Like this mountain, eternal and majestic, is the great conviction to which God calls you. Do not disappoint him. Yesterday is gone, tomorrow is not here. Yours is today. Campion Academy was founded to give you the very help you need. Campion helped me. I will help you. Give it a chance, and remember, it is Campion, always and onward. And Elder Richards lived with his parents in Loveland, and he would ride the train every day to come out to the school and then back again. Back then, passengers could actually get a ticket to come to be let off at the Campion little stop here. And but that's how Elder Richards would get to school.
Well, now I'd like clarification too, is where was that drop? Because I was told it's in front of Hankins Hall, those two stone gates. Is that where the train stop was?
That I don't know.
Not sure. I have been told that before, that is the original gate to Campion Academy. I see
That
people
could
nodding
very
their
well
heads
be.
there. That's where the train would stop and students would get off to come to school.
I think so.
You think so?
Yeah.
That's about the place when I was deaning where students would hop onto the train and end up in Cheyenne, and we'd have to figure out how to get them back. But but that's the gate. So go take a look at that gate. We're in the process of restoring that gate out front of Hankins Hall, so we're excited to still have that
See,
here.
the academy was originally the Eastern Colorado Academy.
Yeah.
But because this was a Campion stop, I can remember farmers would bring their sugar beets and dump it off over there across the road, right next, there was a huge platform where they would dump their sugar beets, and then the trains would come and pick them up and then take them off to the sugar factories.
Oh, my. I tell you, a lot of history here. Do you have a favorite memory you'd like to share?
Well, my folks moved up here in the spring of '43. I'm not going to tell you how old I was. But, so this has always been home.
Okay.
And as I went through the history, there was so much of the history that I remembered. We didn't have a church. And every time that the church members would raise money to build a church, then something would happen and the school would need the money. So the church would give the academy the money, or the church school the money. And I can remember our very first principal here was Elder Page. And I don't know if his daughters are here. Is Jan or Ann here? No, okay. His granddaughters. Anyway, one year he built little wooden churches that was a bank, and gave to each family, or however many they needed, and we would put our change in there. And then when it was full, then we would hand it back to the church. Well, all that money ended up at the academy. But as a student, I have lots of memories that I wouldn't want to repeat. But as a student, all these people was talking about their degrees. When I came to Campion Academy, after I graduated, I got an MRS degree. I started first grade, and then I met my wonderful husband-to-be, Rocky Hedger, and my daddy said, you have to graduate before you can get married. So instead of 12 years here, I took 11 years here to get my graduation. Right. And I can remember, I didn't know who was sitting back there, but the Whites. Sandy White and I, we were in the cradle roll division together. That daughter that's sitting next to you must be pretty close to the same age as my kids. We were, anyway, I remember having a good friendship with Sandy White. My favorite classes probably would be my freshman Bible class. It was taught by Elder Storrs. And oh, the knowledge that man had. I couldn't get over how much he knew. And he tried to get us to know that much too. And then Mr. Thompson. We went to school in that room over there in that corner of the gym. That was a classroom. And I don't remember if it was Spanish or English that I took from him. But English was not my thing, but he was so patient with me in trying to get me to understand the adverbs and all that kind of stuff. And he was such a good man. Him and his wife both, they were really good people. And so those are the two teachers that really stick out in my mind.
Nice. Very nice.
And then in 1995, we moved back. My dad was the farm manager here for several years, but when we first moved here, we had our own dairy just up the road a quarter of a mile. And so when I retired from Wisconsin Academy, we moved back to the home place. And I have 5 acres of my dad's dairy farm, and we live in the house they built in the 70s. So it's back home.
Very nice. We like it when Campion is home.
Yeah.
That's right.
And Judy was talking about the kids in their Sabbath school class. I remember my mom had the cradle roll in the basement of the girls' dormitory. And I would help her with the cradle roll there. And then my mom also started the Pathfinder clubs for Campion. The first Pathfinder club was the Lone Tree Pathfinder Club.
I love hearing those stories of legacy. That's wonderful. Thank you, Mary, so much. So, moving on, Judy, do you have that favorite memory to share?
I've got lots of them, but one that sticks out is my sister and I were not twins, but everybody thought we were because we were in the same class. That happened because when she went to first grade, she brought books home, and I learned to read. So when I went to school, I could already read, so they put me in second grade. So we were together throughout our school time, and we took biology from Mr. Furman. And Mr. Furman could not tell us apart. So he sat us together we had long tables, and he sat us at the same table, and when he returned papers, he'd just slide them between us, and we could pick out which one was ours. And that class, we didn't have a nice classroom building like the ad building now. Our classes were in different areas. Like Mary said, her class met over there in the corner of the gym, and we met in different buildings that were on the campus at that time. And so we had to walk during whatever the weather was, we had to walk outside between classes. And I did go to, like Mary said, 11 years here. I went to 11 years also because I skipped first grade. And my sister and I were the first class to graduate from HMS. It was not HMS at the time. It was just the Campion grade school. But we were the first class to graduate from that school, and now they're calling it old, so I don't know where they're getting that from.
Well, when I went to grade school down there, it was a two-room school. Grades 1 through 4 was in the lower room. Grades 5 through 8 was in the upper room. And once you hit 5th grade, then you thought you were pretty big stuff because you were up there with all the older kids. And I can still remember the outhouse back behind the school. And every morning we would say the Pledge of Allegiance. And I can remember, and it was probably when the weather permitted, we would always raise the flag out in front, and that's where we would say our Pledge of Allegiance. My sister and I was talking about it, and she said she can remember saying it in the classroom, probably when the weather was not good enough. It was said in, but every morning, the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
So, Daryl, you got another story for us?
Well, first of all, I just want to follow up with my appreciation for Mr. White when he mentioned the exposure to potentially an epidemic of mononucleosis when he was in college. And, you know, I see the students in masks today, and I realize what they're going through, but thank God you took what you learned there and brought things to Campion Academy that kept kissing disease from breaking out at the time that I was here. So thank you for that. I think it's monumental. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I wanted to add, I guess, my favorite story as a freshman in the old boys' dorm, which no longer exists. My roommate was Bill Pike, my cousin, and my grandmother was worried about our nutrition, and so she provided us with a large green locker, and she provided us with health food items to help supplement what we didn't get in the cafeteria. Hostess Twinkies, Fritos, soda pop, and candy bars. And I've always been so appreciative of that. And what was really troubling is that we had roommates or others down the hall who would occasionally want to borrow some of the items from our trunk. And of course, they were malnourished as well, and it felt as the least we could do. But it became a point of where the trunk was carried out of our room. And taken away. Fortunately, there were upperclassmen who found it, returned it to us. We put a lock on it and preserved the health food for the future. So that's my favorite memory.
Oh, I tell you, this is hard, you guys. I would like to recognize this panel for sharing with us today. Would you thank them with us, please? It's not an easy thing to come up here and share like this, but you guys did very well for us, and we appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to add one thing. I was a village student. Judy was a village student, so we never had the opportunity of being in the dormitory. Then we got a call from Elder Wayne Olson, who was the principal at Sunnydale Academy, to come out there and be their dean. The first night I ever spent in the dormitory, I was the dean, and I had no idea what I was going to do. But God took us through it, and for 20 years, I was a dean.
Thank you, Missy, and our choir. If you would bow your heads with me, we're going to conclude our Sabbath School program. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for being here with us on this beautiful sunshiny Sabbath, and thank you for bringing everybody here safely, and ask that you continue to be with all of the friends who are meeting and greeting each other and catching up, and thank you for being here in our hearts and our minds as we worship with you as well. In your name, amen. Okay, thank you for joining us for Sabbath School. We will be back here at 10:45 for the church service.